Hi, welcome to the tape group today. The world is new, so thank you so much for joining today. It's great to meet you on this beautiful Sunday, and time for meditation, time for contemplation, you could say. I'm really going to look at the chapter from the book The World is New, and the chapter has a title. I will have to look it up. Harmony through oneness with God. Now that's a lovely title, and we're going to see what Joel wants to share with us today, and how that, how you can actually experience that or realize that. It is an interesting chapter. It's beautiful to read it because there are, in fact, a lot of contemplative parts in that are very useful. So in our meditation, we will use a part of it to that is, straight from the chapter. So today, just gently going into this, realizing that we're here to deeply relax, to consider for a moment where we truly abide, that in fact in this present moment everything is given us, and to make that our experience, you could say, is we will have to come to a release of this self-identity, the release of the idea what you think you are, where you think you are, when you think you are, like all the considerations about the past and the future are in fact not useful here. They're actually in the way for your consciousness to be open, to be accessible for a different experience of yourself. And of course I express this always, like it's always being expressed in a different way, and that's how that goes. It's like it's a new experience all the time. It's not like, okay, now I know what to do, let's do this. No, it's always like you don't know how to do this. There's always a moment in which you can really describe as a dying daily moment, which you really sink into the release of your self-identity. And so one word or a couple of words that really inspire me is, in fact, this is like suddenly you come to the place where you start to feel the single desire for the Father. And that's just a beautiful place inside yourself where everyone has a recognition with, like that has to be like that. And because the single desire for the Father is in fact the portal to an experience of the communication that is taking place in this present moment. And so that's the invitation, and that you can describe that or say that in many ways. And we will use some of those expressions too in the meditation. Joel uses scripture, some expressions from scripture. And this inspiration came from Michelle. Michelle wrote to me, it's like, well, you gotta listen to this from the chapter. It's like, okay, yeah, let's do that. So this is one way to give this to one another, is what I'm saying. It's like, as an example, if you see something, or you want to share something that inspires you so incredibly deeply that you're completely touched by it, don't hesitate to share it with anyone. I'm always open to that, because it is this is how spirit works. It's always unity, equality. There's no differences really. Like in your recognition, time dissolves. In your recognition of truth, time dissolves. So then suddenly we can actually meet or are communicating as one. Now this is very lovely, and this is an invitation for everyone, of course. It's in fact what we're doing here, you could say, if there's such thing as a doing. Like this is what we come to in the recognition of our oneness, a relationship of oneness. We saw that yesterday in the New Horizon 2. A relationship of oneness is a relationship with one. Is the relationship called oneness. So that means there is no, there's nothing separate from that. There's nothing missing from that. No, it is perfect. It is whole. It is fulfilled, as we will see today. It's like it's fulfilled. It's oneness. There are not different types of oneness. There are not certain parts that are part of it and other parts aren't part of it. No, whatever is real is part of it. Whatever is in communication with the universe is part of it. Yeah, it's a total part of it. And like even and this is so great. We're gonna, yeah, I have so much inspiration coming through different channels to me. So it's like even in the littlest ripple of the ocean. It's like, no, don't exclude that. That's also part of it. It's like into the tiniest little thing. Like this little straw of grass is also a total part of the universe. It is all a representation of the unity in oneness. So as it has a spark of life in itself, so it is part of oneness, and it is that totality that can be experienced. Can you see it? No, not necessarily. Can you feel it? Yes. But how do you feel it? Well, with your inner senses, Joel says, with your inner senses. It's like you don't have just outer senses that tell you lies, basically, that are, say, representing the mesmeric ideas that you hold about yourself, but you also have an inner senses where you can actually feel, where you can actually experience the totality of who you are. And now those are activated only when you go within, when you exclude, in fact, your outer senses for a moment and see that that is, say, a transfer, that's a change, a temporary change, which you will have to allow to in fact, empty your mind, empty your consciousness of any kind of ephemeral idea, any kind of temporal idea. So that is the introduction to the video that we're going to undergo. So this is pre-made, the video is pre-made. You will hear it in English and French, and yeah, you know in fact how this works. It's like there's, I think, 3.5 minutes of pause in between, of silence in between. Then we start over again, just to, your mind is quickly distracted. Like to do this 3 minutes with full attention, full openness is great. Now you have another chance to hear the expressions one more time. Then you allow yourself to be quiet one more time too. Wonderful. That's John tells us of the temple not made with hands, the invisible universe. And where is that invisible universe? Where except within your own being? And is it really invisible? No, it is visible and tangible, but only to the inner senses. This is the secret of life, and with the attainment of a realization and understanding of it, every scriptural promise and its fulfillment are ours. Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. That is the invisible I, the invisible presence, not present in the golden statue or the crystal statue, only visible as emptiness to the outer senses, but completely satisfying and filling within. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. These things I have spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full, fulfilled. That I is God, that I is the Christ, the Son of God, and our conscious awareness of that truth is our communion between that which is our outer self and our inner spiritual self. Someday this outer self will disappear, and all that is left then will be the inner reality.
Jean nous parle du temple qui n'est pas fait avec les mains, l'univers invisible. Et où se trouve cet univers invisible? Où, sinon au-dedans de notre propre être? Et est-il réellement invisible? Non, il est visible et tangible, mais uniquement pour les sens intérieurs. Ceci constitue le secret de la vie, et quand on en atteint la réalisation et la compréhension, chaque promesse de l'Écriture et son accomplissement sont à nous. Voyez, je suis avec vous toujours, même jusqu'à la fin du monde. C'est l'invisible jeu, l'invisible présence, absolue, dans la statue en or ou dans la statue en cristal, uniquement visible comme vide pour les sens extérieurs, mais qui satisfait et comble entièrement au-dedans. Je suis venu afin qu'il puisse avoir la vie et qu'il l'ait de manière plus abondante. Je vous dis ces choses afin que ma joie demeure en vous et que votre joie puisse être parfaite, parfaite, absolument parfaite, complètement parfaite. Ce je est Dieu, ce je est le Christ, le Fils de Dieu, et notre réalisation consciente de cette vérité et notre communion entre ce qui est notre moi extérieur et notre individualité spirituelle intérieure. Un jour, ce moi extérieur disparaîtra et tout ce qui subsistera alors sera la réalité intérieure.
All right, thank you so much for joining in the meditation. That's great. So in this, you see there's an oneness. Like this is about oneness, and the realization of oneness is many talks of Joel are called to like a realization of oneness. But how is that to be realized? How is that to be realized? So in this chapter, there's some aspects of that are given to us, and some very useful, in fact, considerations that you should keep in mind with the idea of realization of oneness. Because, in fact, before we can talk about harmony, through oneness with God, like you believe that as a concept, you believe that, that will be perfectly harmonious, no doubt. But now, what is my experience of myself, and how can I in fact release that in order to come to the harmony in my communication with God? How do we do that? How is that to be received, you could say? How is that realized? And now this is interesting. So we're using the book. So I have some expressions of Joel, and I will read some of it. After I share the considerations that Joel gives to us, I will read something from the book too directly, because there's such a beautiful a reference that you don't want to miss. And this is everything to do with the realization part, like the actual moment where it can happen, you could say. Now, I shared in the beginning already something about the single desire for the Father, which is a very inspiring idea, but it's also, like what I said, the portal to an experience. So the single desire means also that you don't have other desires, even if that is for just a moment, that you don't have that. Like the one thing you want is to realize your oneness with God. It would be like an honest prayer, like, this is my only desire. Now, what do I need to do for that? Yeah, we're going to take a look at that. But you know what we're talking about. Okay, so here are some expressions. Harmony through oneness with God is the title of the book. And spiritual living itself is the living by grace, not by might, not by power. It is not a life of trials and tribulations and hard work. On the contrary, it is a life in which we should find all things appearing to us in order of our need for them, sometimes even before we ourselves are aware of the need. So here's one expression. Spiritual living itself is the life by grace, not by might nor by power. Okay, now let's take a look at this. It's like spiritual life is the life, it's like that's by grace. It's given to us, like it's given to us. But how can that be? Like, how do you come to the place where you actually experience that? In my human beliefs, that wouldn't be the way that things are going. It's like I have to put tremendous effort in the things that I do. And I hope that it will be all right, but I'm not sure about that at all. So a life by grace sounds great. It's like, yeah, that sounds so much easier, because the way that I live my life is not always like that. I find myself in tribulations. I find myself in conflict. I find myself with great tension, or with full of anxiety, or all the characteristics that human mind has, you could say. So for Joel to say this, he's speaking from his Christ mind. He's in the experience of that, otherwise he would not be able to tell us this. So like that is the requirement, coming to the realization of your whole-mindedness, or the totality of your being, or whatever word you use for that. But in fact, see, it all comes down to the same thing. My life by grace is a realization of oneness, right? It is experiencing myself as the love of the universe. It is seeing my brother as my savior and as is the Christ. Like you recognize his wholeness in himself. Now, before that happens, your eyes will have to be opened, you could say. So you go through a couple of steps before that takes place. It is not just like this and then it happens. It could be great. See, if your single desire is pure from, say, in its totality, in this instant, you accept that, there it is. There's the immediate response of the universe, you could say. Now it's more like everything falls away. What is left is oneness. That is your natural state, is a state of oneness. Now we forget this. We forget this in the things that we do. We think like we need to find a solution to a problem that we're meeting, not considering the idea that we're actually perceiving it with our outer senses, and they don't make any sense. So you try to solve a problem that you didn't perceive right. Now, what do you think the outcome of that will be? Indeed. So this is so lovely. It's like all these things you have to come to recognize. Oh yeah, I'm solving a problem, but I don't see the situation right. If I would know, say, the answer to the problem that I'm meeting, the answer that would be the best for everyone, with a total view of everything that's occurring in the universe, great, then it will work. Do I know that? No, of course not. No, you don't. So all these devastating things you have to admit to yourself, like, I don't know what's the best for everyone. I don't know what's the best for anyone involved. I've no overview. I've no idea what's going on, basically. I have no idea what's happening. Now these, these admissions are actually giving us the opportunity for a consciousness to open. And of course, I'm speaking about this many times because, in fact, you cannot avoid it. No, you actually have come to the place where this is really being like right in your face, you could say. Like this is really actual in your experience. You recognize you cannot solve the problems you are meeting. You have no idea what's going on. And in that, you don't even know who you are. Unless you experience yourself as the Christ, you don't know who you are. So that means the thing that doesn't know what it is cannot communicate, cannot be in communication with the universe, with God, cannot live a life by grace. Forget it. It will never work. That's impossible. But by the admission of I have no idea, and there must be a different way to look at this, something occurs, something happens. Okay, so we continue. There's more. So, repeating it one more time. Spiritual living itself is the life by grace, not by might, nor by power. It is not a life of trials, tribulation, and hard labor. On the contrary, it is a life in which we should find all things appearing to us in order of our need for them, sometimes even before we ourselves are aware of the need. Spiritual living is that state of being in which we live by grace, in which we know that an infinite presence, while not tangible to the outer senses, does go out, and if necessary, provides even such unimportant things as a parking space for us, or just the right hat or dress. Now, see, we love to hear this kind of expressions of Joel, of course, because the tendency is then to think that your spiritual living has something to do with the world. He is an actual, say, bridging of that. And so that's a good thing to take a look at. Spiritual living is that state of being in which we live by grace, in which we know that an infinite presence, while not tangible to the sense, does go out and, if necessary, provides even unimportant things. So, as a parking spot. And does it work in casinos too, with specific numbers? I was like, okay, well, see, if it would, then it would be like, you know who's going to win. You know what number is going to win, and you're going to be the lucky finder of it. Like, well, whatever experience you want. So, but see, this is a bit of the same thing. To find this parking spot or to find the right dress or hat. It's like, how do I need to look at this? Because it is not that I ask for it and then God delivers it, like in some kind of Amazon.com. No, it is not like that. So there must be a different way to look at this too. So how does that work then? I want to know. Now, to come to know how this works, it is like spiritual living is living by grace. Now, what was the fundamental idea of living by grace? Being in an experience of oneness, having all my needs, like, in fact, releasing all my needs, all my ideas about needs and all that, all my desires, you could say, leaving only one single desire for the Father. And something occurs in which I suddenly come into an experience of my communication with God, with the harmony through my relationship with God, coming into the direct experience of communication, you could say. So that was a prerequisite. So it's like, you cannot skip that. You cannot skip that. Now, how about that parking spot? And how about this dress? How about this? It's like, well, if you are consciously aware of your communication with the universe, with God, then see, you take that with you wherever you go. You could say, like, you attract certain experiences that come to you. You are not concerned about which dress to buy or what food to eat or which parking spot to get. No, you just, in fact, keep your mind open, just as you do in your, say, experience of oneness. You have no considerations about it. You have no concerns about it. You have no conflict about it. In that, everything is given you just by being present. And the right thing will come to you. Or it's like, or there is an occurrence that takes place. This part of your, like you think you go out to buy a dress, for instance, or a hat, whatever you prefer. It's like you think you go out to buy that, but in the meantime, you actually have a moment with someone who tells you his whole life story and actually needs help. You just never know what's going to happen. I've seen this so many times. Like, you go somewhere and you think you know why you go there. That is already not true, because you don't know. Like, if your consciousness is open, this will all be given. It's not of your business, so to speak. It's not by your doing. It's not a conscious choice for a certain occurrence or event or encounter. No, there's a plan, and it works perfectly. So I'm brought to the places, you could say, in my open consciousness, I'm brought to the places where I actually have something to do, but I don't know what that is. It will be revealed continuously on a moment-by-moment basis. Oh, here's a parking spot. Oh, here's a hat. Oh, here's something else. Whatever, a dress. Here's a dress. Oh, great, wonderful. So I don't have to be concerned with it. Is that a big deal? No, it's not. It comes to you. Before, after you struggle for a new dress or hat, and keep looking for it, keep finding it, keep trying to find it, it becomes a lot of effort. You have no idea which shop to go to get what you need. It becomes an exhausting activity. Well, that's not walking around with an open consciousness. No, with an open consciousness, you don't know anything. You don't know where you go. So it's like you admit to your total uncertainty in how to do anything. In that, you're open to receive instruction and actually hear a voice tell you what to do. And you just follow that. Not even like, it's instantaneous, is my experience. Like, that is always perfectly placed. It's always coming to you in the right time, in the right place, in the right way. Effortless. There's no struggle related to it. Is that a byproduct, you could say, of your open consciousness in which you are actually communicating? Yes, of course. So what is all this struggle and tribulation then? Well, that is trying to engage my mind and my human mind in trying to solve a problem that I didn't perceive right. Or trying to, say, in fact, fulfilling my own desires, wanting it this way, wanting it my way, for instance. It has to look like this. I want it to come to me that way. I even see that in healing too, that some people say, like, no, I just want it to come that way to me. It's like, well, it's not going to happen. It is not by your definition that this occurs. No, it's by you opening your mind, like having an open consciousness that something can occur. So spiritual living is that state of being in which we live by grace, in which we know that an infinite presence, while not tangible to the sense, does go out, and if necessary provides even such an important thing as a parking space for us, or just the right hat or dress. The secret of this inner life by grace is that there are no yesterdays. See, there it is. There are no tomorrows. There's only the ever-present now. So that is the secret of this inner life by grace. Let go of the past. Let go of tomorrow. Don't plan for the future. No, be present here. Open your consciousness. Allow yourself to not know anything about what will be occurring or how it's supposed to look. So just don't say stop, in fact, ordering your thoughts, trying to make your story complete. Like there is no story. Like there is no link to the past. There is not a continuity in time. No, if there's only this moment, this is all that there is. And it's full and it's complete. Living by grace means living by love. There's no divine love up in the sky. There's no divine love that is going to come down and operate in us and through us or for us. See, this is what I meant also with the parking ticket. It can be a little bit confusing, but here it's stated clearly. There's no divine love up in the sky. There's no divine love that is going to come down and operate in us or through us or for us. The divine love which supplies our every need is the love we express, the impersonal love which even express to our enemy and to those who persecute us. Our body is the temple of the living God, and we have dedicated it to the divine life, the divine love, which are its presence and power made manifest. The moment we drop our human concerns, well, here it is, we have opened the door to God, to a receptivity to the divine presence that goes before us and makes the crooked places straight. And that is all it takes. One little moment of total dedication, of dedication, one little moment of dedication, one little moment of opening consciousness to this truth, and then realizing that what happens in this now is a continuing experience. It never stops and it never will. What happens in this now is a continuing experience. It never stops and it never will. You can't lose it, in other words. It's always with you. Presence is always with you. You're not always aware of it because you let yourself be distracted by the things of time, by human concerns. But here you open your consciousness you open the door to God, to a receptivity to the divine presence that goes before us and makes the crooked places straight. So now, to put this in perspective, this came up to share. And that is, I'll read it to you because it's so interesting. Let me see. Yeah. We have to realize from now on that we have been given the peace that passes understanding of our own dedication to God, because we have brought our body as a temple to be dedicated to truth, life, immortality, and spirituality. What more can we do? Nothing. Nothing more is expected of us. When we reach out, here's our own dedication to God. The moment, just this one little moment in which we are dedicated for a different experience, right? When we reach out only 1% to the Christ experience, it reaches out to us 99%. In other words, so this is what I love to share with you because it's so practical and also so real. It's like you have no idea how easy this is for you. You think it might be difficult or anything like that. It's like, no, this is not difficult. It asks of you like a moment of dedication, of a single desire for the Father or for Christ, for the Christ experience, which is the Father, which is, you know, oneness. In oneness, everything is one. So it doesn't really matter how you mention it, how you call it. So in your 1% of dedication to have that experience. You are being supported 99%. In other words, your little willingness has immense support. And that's why it becomes obvious that you actually don't have to do anything. You just have a bit of dedication to that, like you have a single desire. That's what you feel. Now that shifts into an experience where you know that you have nothing to do with. Know that literally comes to you. You cannot do that. So that's why it's so great to have this, this chapter about oneness too. It's like to come into an experience of oneness is really like a birth to you. It's a rebirth. It's a rebirth because the one thing that you do now for just a moment is have a single desire. Now that was like the thing that we have been waiting for, you could say. It's like out of time, we have been waiting for you to have this single desire for the Father. In that, you get all the support. In fact, your little desire, your little dedication opens up the heavens, you could say. Opens up the heavens. So it's like the mind-blowing experience that is related to it is totally you. It's totally yours. It's very familiar. It's like homecoming, but it's not by your doing. That is so lovely too. Now in that, it's like once you experience that, it will stay with you. You cannot lose it. It's like that is just right here for you. And you can bring it back into your consciousness, into your conscious awareness all the time. So it becomes easier also to in fact say like, well, I'm not interested in distraction. I'm not interested in that. No, I don't have to. No, I don't have to make a planning, for instance. I don't have to plan my week in order to achieve something. No, I know that Christ is living my life. My planning is perfect in such a way that you can't believe it. Like that literally is true. Like every moment that something needs to occur or you're being moved to do something, that will be given to you. And also like the reason why you go and do your thing, the whole, thinking about and thinking you know why it disappears. You don't know why you're doing the things anymore, but you become comfortable because you start to trust that now will bring you always the best, fresh manna, fresh inspiration, always, like continuously. So everything becomes different. Like even going to a dentist will be totally different. It is not, you never go for the reason to the dentist that you think. Like you think it's going to come for your teeth. No, there's something else going on. Like this, you know, it's like, no, it's a... the other comparison that's being made a lot too is this, is like everything becomes a ceremony because you are so present in this moment that every possibility or everything that seems to be occurring in your world, it becomes like a ceremony, as if something really incredible is going to happen. And it is, of course. It's like there's an opportunity to recognize the Christ in my brother. There's an opportunity to forgive my ideas, in fact, to let go of my ideas, to release what I think should happen. So that is monumental in your new experience of yourself. Your whole world becomes new. And that's probably too why this chapter is in the book with this content. The world is new. So thank you so much for listening to me, sharing this. Now we go really quickly to the tape that I say that came to me to share with you, and that is the now activity of the Christ. And we jump into the second part of the hour.
This second of time that is going to determine your tomorrow. Tomorrow is an extension of your consciousness of this moment. And a divine grace or truth received in your consciousness now will externalize itself in some moment of what you might call the future, but which isn't the future. It is but an extension of now. In the spiritual life, therefore, we do not dwell on the past. If there are sins of omission or commission of the past, we repent of them. We repent of them in some moment of now. Regret that they ever had to be. Regret that we were ever an instrument for their expression, and then dismiss them. Neither do I condemn thee. Thy sins be forgiven thee. Only go and sin no more. Let the past drop. But he could have gone on and said, forget also your good deeds of the past, because they cannot be relived. As a matter of fact, the good we do lives on forever in effect. Therefore, we need not dwell on it. We need dwell on now. Now are ye the sons of God. And to abide in this truth makes it a continuing experience into all of the future. The Master revealed clearly in his lessons on spiritual healing that we are to abide in the Word and let the Word abide in us. This is the pattern of spiritual living, abiding in the Word now. Be careful. Do not put off until tonight to think truth. Do not wait until you are ready to retire to think truth. This is the moment in which it enters your consciousness. Now, here, you are in the temple of God to tabernacle with the sons and daughters of God. And therefore, it is in this instant that your consciousness must accept this truth. What truth? Ye are the temple of God. Ye are the temple of God. The place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Here where I am, God is, and the voice of God whispers, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Accept this truth in your consciousness now, and it becomes a continuing manifestation and expression. Abide in this truth that I and my Father are one. Thou seest me, thou seest the Father that sent me. Abide in this truth, and this becomes the continuing experience, because it is what you are entertaining in consciousness now that constitutes your tomorrow and tomorrow's tomorrow. Always in the now, you are building what the world calls the future, but which you will understand to be but an extension of now. Since the Christ dwelleth in you, remember, infinity dwelleth in you. But let me give you one other word. The word power. Do you realize that it was the Christ power that healed the sick? It wasn't a man. It was the Christ power that healed the sick. It wasn't a man who forgave the sinner. It was the Christ power that forgave the sinner. It was the Christ power that multiplied the loaves and fishes. It was the Christ power that walked over the waves of mortal error, mortal discords. It was the Christ power that brought about resurrection and ascension. And just think of this. This Christ is embodied in you. This Christ is the Son of God in you, the Spirit of God that dwelleth in you. And it begins to come into manifestation upon your recognition of it, upon your acknowledgement of it. Acknowledge him in all thy ways. Acknowledge the presence of the Christ within you, and then a miracle takes place. In your material life, power was outside of you. The power of climate, the power of weather, the power of infection, the power of boom times, the power of panic times, the power of peace times, the power of war times, the power of sin, the power of disease. All of these were out here acting upon you. And all of this ceases in the moment that you acknowledge Christ dwelleth in me. Because now all power is given unto you. God gave man dominion over everything, in the earth, above the earth, and beneath. God gave man dominion through the Son of God, which is in you. Why has the world been bereft of this power? Well, of course, the Hebrews have never acknowledged that the Messiah has come, the Christ. The Christians have acknowledged that the Christ came for 3 years and went away, and they are waiting for the second coming. And therefore both the Hebrews and the Christians are without a Christ. One waiting for the Christ, the other waiting for the return of the Christ, but both acknowledging an absence of the Christ. And here and now, in this very temple where it has been presented to you over and over and over again, let us repeat it and you acknowledge it. The Christ dwelleth in me. God did not send us to earth without an indwelling Christ, or else it would be equivalent of turning us loose on earth, a world of howling lions. We have abandoned the Christ within us. The Christ has not abandoned us. We have abandoned the God of our fathers. The God has not abandoned us. And since nothing can happen to us except through our own consciousness, you cannot benefit by the presence of the Christ except by an acknowledgement within you that Christ dwelleth in me. Whatever is to take place in your life must take place through the activity of your consciousness. The Master said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." We say again today, you must know the truth, that Christ dwelleth in you, and that the function of the Christ in you is still to heal the sick, raise the dead, feed the hungry, forgive the sinner. acknowledge Christ dwelleth in me. I can do all things through this indwelling Christ. There is no power outside of me to act upon me. Do not misunderstand. There is lots of power in the world to act on human beings, on those who have not acknowledged that Christ dwelleth in me. The moment that you have accepted the indwelling Christ, in that moment the Christ liveth your life. You then find it to be a presence that goes before you to make the crooked places straight. You now find that you are not living your own life exclusively, but that you have a partner, an invisible partner, a senior partner, a partner of power. Not the power that goes out to destroy your enemies, not a power that goes out with a sword, not a power that acts as a general or a king. No. The power of the Christ that is within you is the still small voice. This was the mistake of the Hebrews. They expected their Messiah to be a general and a king, and to go out with an army and set them free. And so when the Messiah was revealed to them, they did not recognize that my kingdom is not of this world. God is not in the whirlwind. God is not in the sins of this world or the diseases of this world. God is not out there in bombs. God is in a still small voice. The activity of the Christ is made manifest on earth through the still small voice which you hear. Whether or not you hear it audibly, this is of no importance. The point is that at the moment of your acceptance of the Christ, your attention is turned inward, in here. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. And you begin to function as of this moment and in a continuing experience, always to turn within, even if for a brief moment, just as an acknowledgement that the Christ is within you, and let it speak through its gentle voice. Remember, when it speaks, the earth melteth. The enemies, the armies of the aliens, destroy themselves. The Christ doesn't go out to destroy armies. The Christ utters its still small voice, and the enemy destroys himself. Whether the enemy is a person or a condition, it destroys itself not by might nor by power, but by this still small voice. So the spiritual life entails first the acknowledgement. Christ dwelleth in me. God has planted his Son within my consciousness. And as of old, its function is to go before me and make the crooked places straight. Its function is to enlighten me, to teach me, to preach the gospel to me. Its function is to be my bread, meat, wine, and water, the source of my inspiration. And how is it to function? Through the still small voice. This it is that enables us to live the life of withinness. We acknowledge now that the kingdom of allness is within me, and now I am not to be so busy out here in this world, although performing everything that is right for me to do, but not with concern, because now I know that the fruitage will come because of this inner grace, this inner stillness, this inner peace. As of now, so that it may be a continuing experience, realize that life, your life, is to be lived by grace, not by might nor by power. You will still perform every function in your home or business or art or profession, but you will perform it with the understanding that there is a He within you that performeth everything that is given you to do. Always you will live from the within to the without. Always you will live in a continued remembrance. Christ dwelleth in me. Let it perform its work. Let it go before me. Do not try to empower it. Do not try to make it work. You can't use the Christ. The Christ can use you. In those moments when you relax, when you rest, in the assurance. Assurance? Can't you hear it? I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. I will be with thee unto the end of the world. I am thy meat and wine and water. I am the resurrection. Do you not realize that this I that you read in Scripture is this Christ, which was revealed to human consciousness 2,000 years ago and has never left the earth and has always been available to every individual who could open his consciousness to this and not believe this, that the Messiah hasn't come or that we're waiting for the second coming. God doesn't work in the past or in the future. God works only in the now. Just think of, well, I was trying to think what month of the year this is. I guess we're in April. Just think now of what is being prepared in your bushes, in your trees, in your gardens. Think of what is being prepared now that will only appear in May and June. April showers bring May flowers. The activity of God in the now, functioning in the now and continuing in the now, brings forth now in May and June the flowers and the fruits. Think only that the activity of God must be working in the now. The activity of God is not going to bring us any fruits yesterday. God does not function in the past. The Christ does not function in the past or in the future. It is functioning now. And whatever appears in your garden or on your trees in the future is because of the activity of the Christ now. Therefore, accept this as part of your life of spiritual living, that your recognition of the activity of the Christ now in you is that which will appear as the fruitage in your life next week, next month, next season, next year. You must at some particular moment of life acknowledge the indwelling Christ and then continue to abide in that word, and you will find that if your particular life is barren at this moment, physically, mentally, morally, financially, it makes no difference. If your life has any barren spots, your recognition of the activity of the Christ now will in this moment start your new crop in motion. And then it is only a matter of abiding in the Word and letting the Word abide in you until the fruitage appears. Every word of truth is not truth itself. Every word of truth is a seed of truth. The Master told us of the three states of consciousness, the barren soil in which these seeds will not bear fruit, the rocky soil which may accept this seed and develop it a little, but as soon as temptation comes, a strong wind or a tough problem, we give up. But then there is the fertile soil. And these seeds of truth which come to you from this platform, or the seeds of truth which you take from the book tables, from the minister, the practitioners, the teachers, these seeds of truth, when taken into your consciousness and lived with, here is the proof of whether or not your soil is fertile. If you don't hear this word at all, or if it goes in one ear and out the other, your consciousness is barren so far as truth is concerned. If, however, you hear this word, if you receive this word in your consciousness, and you find that late tonight some part of this message returns to your consciousness, tomorrow some word that has been said, some quotation that has been voiced, returns to you. If in your periods of meditation you return, and I'm speaking not only of the word that you are hearing in this hour from this platform, but I'm speaking actually of every word of truth that you have heard from this or any other platform. If this truth abides in you, if you ponder occasionally the truths that you hear, if you take your periods of meditation and remember again and again the truths that have entered your consciousness, then you are fertile soil, and you may expect rich fruitage. Abide in the Word. Let the Word abide in you, and you are on the spiritual path. And then you will discover that there's no such thing as a past, but that every moment of your present is a continuing experience into what the calendar calls the future. You know, of course, that there is no such thing as one day ending and another day beginning. Those are just divisions that we make on calendars. But those of you who have been up until midnight, some nights, can bear witness to the fact that there is no division at midnight, no division at 12 o'clock noon. It's just the same rhythm taking place all of the time, and it's always now. It is always now in this kingdom. And therefore, that which we have accepted now is the continuing experience of the Christ, and the fruitage appears in its season. You see, spiritual living really means living in the Word of God. We no longer live by bread alone. We no longer live by bread alone. We, on the spiritual path, we eat our bread, we eat all kinds of food, whatever is set before us, for it is nothing that goes into the mouth that defiles. It is what we are entertaining in consciousness. We live by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. And therefore, on the spiritual path, we are living by every seed of truth, every word of truth that has been planted in our consciousness and that we permit to dwell there, so that we dwell in it and permit it to dwell in us and bear fruit. The spiritual life is living not by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God, every word of truth. And the spiritual life is not seeking a power to do anything for you in this life. The spiritual life has nothing to do with the using of a power. The spiritual life is an acknowledgement of a life by grace, not by might and not by power, but by the still small voice. Not using it, letting it use us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining in this, listening to Joel. And you see, Joel's in fact sharing the same words as are also in the book, that it is about, say, developing a consciousness, a spiritual life based on the Word, and letting that Word, say, dwell in us. And that's an interesting term to say it, so it can bear fruit. I'd like to let it dwell in us, this truth. It needs, you have to experience it. You're opening yourself up for the experience of it. So it is not just having words or having concepts or having expressions coming to you. No, you actually allow them to touch you, to give you an experience of what it actually means, by you being open to that. Like, that's how it develops, that's how it grows, that's how it, where the fruitage comes from, you could say. It's like, that's how it manifests. Because it is nothing but a recognition of what is already in you and what is already there. So it's like you cannot lose it, but you can only lose your awareness of it. But here Joel has given us the instruction. So I want to thank you so much for joining today in this meeting. Great to come to the recognition of oneness with you, recognizing our equality and our union. Say the unity is like the glue that binds us, recognizing there's only one of us. So thank you so much for being a whole part of that, and I hope to see you soon.